Hello, everyone. It's Jaden for Student Pages. Hope you're all doing well today. Today, we have a very special guest for you guys. We are here with an emerging Indian American hip hop artist. We are here with Ashwin Gane. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm very well, thank you. So it's very nice to have you on today. It's going to be a very pleasant conversation, I'm sure. So to get us started, I suppose, can you give the people at home a bit of a rundown as to who you are, how you got into the music industry, and things along that line?
So yeah, if you don't know who I am, I go by the name Ashwin Gane. But funnily enough, when I came into the music industry, I was known as ATG. You could say means all-time greatest, or as I like to say, means against the grain, because that's what I try to do. I try to be against the grain, and not just be a contrarian, because I believe that's the only way to win. But anyways, let me get into the story of how did I get into the industry. And I'm gonna exclude all the bathroom rapping, all the bedroom producing. I'm just gonna dive in.
Cool.
So I'm just a guy from the Midwest suburbs, and I want to have. I just want to share my music with the world. It's really simple. So I was looking for any opportunity. The first opportunity that landed in my lap was you may know who he is, or you may not know who he is. His name is Swifty McWade from D12. So if you D12 was Eminem's group, and he was a part of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was back in 2018. So I produced a track, and even back then I was kind of building my signature sound as a producer, which is classical music combined with hip hop, and make it all. I call it cinematic hip hop. That's what a lot of people call it. And he said, "Oh," and he was impressed, and he said, "Okay, why don't I rap on this, and I'll put it out." So that's what happened. 2018. That was my first record ever released, and that was as a producer. So that's how I got into the game, and then it just escalated from there.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you've definitely got a very unique sound, I suppose. I don't think there's many people sort of doing exactly what you do. You've got a very unique spin on the genre, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah. So for your latest EP then, Got It. What would you say was your creative process for that one specifically? Like, did you do anything differently, or, were things sort of the same in that way?
No, it was quite different. Number one, the EP was not so much showcase my sound per se. I almost wanted it to feel like a vibe playlist. Like, this is all about the vibes. It's all about. I want to be laid back, smooth, top to bottom. And but I did use a few new techniques, because I did it later. I did it after I did records like Regretted, Twilight, and Outside, which are more of the cinematic sound that you people may know me for. For God, it was I wanted to try a new recording process out. So what I did was I would record 5 different variations of the song to see what fits the record the best. Most of the time, we went for the laid back version the most, because that was the vibe we were going for.
Hmm.
Because my goal with God EP was to give you a playlist you can bring anywhere. Like you're cleaning your dishes. Like, I need something to play. Well, you say, well, I got it because I have the God EP. So I already had a very different mindset. So it wasn't
Cool. Yeah, I
some
mean, it's a very clever name.
yeah, yeah, got it. Yeah. And it also helps that the title track is also called Got It.
Yeah, no, yeah, probably a very smart thinking there. Yeah, it's like you sort of sat. I see what you mean, actually. Yeah, it's like you sat around thinking, "Oh, what shall I listen to?" Oh, got it. Yeah, that's clever. Yeah. So for your music as well, then, it's been used in some really like huge places. So, for example, films, NBA, WWE, VR games. I heard as well. So how's that felt to sort of have your music be used in places like that?
I'm not necessarily surprised, because I kind of designed them to be that big. Like, for example, outside, it may get placed in GTA 6. And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's a cinematic record. So Because I try to make them cinematic. Maybe
Hmm.
not so much. God, it was a little less cinematic. It was more of the R&B, pop rap, laid back vibes. But a record like An Outsider or Regretted or Twilight is designed to be played in a stadium, or it's designed to be like a movie. So I'm kind of not too surprised because that was my goal. That was my intention.
Yeah, so the inspiration for the tracks was actually from that sort of media. I mean, yeah, no, that's a very smart way of doing things, you know. It's like you can obviously, if you're aiming for that, you can obviously reach that. Yeah, that adds up. So obviously you are American and Indian in your heritage, and as far as I understand, that's been pretty instrumental in how you've, you know, developed your music as an artist. So I mean, how would you personally describe that relationship then? Was there any sort of inspiration from you know, that heritage that made its way in?
Yeah, I mean, but it's in a very roundabout way. It's not in the way where most people would expect. Like, I'm not gonna come out of the scene on a flying carpet playing, with a flute. I mean, that's not what I mean by my
Yeah,
heritage has shaped me. But what it has done is, and you know this, you know how the stereotype about Indian immigrants having a strong work ethic. I can tell you that is true. Maybe not all of them are true.
right.
That stereotype is very much true. So
Okay.
I approach everything I do like I'm an immigrant. I come with that Indian work ethic. So to me, that's where the Indian element comes in, and the humility, that is encouraged in India. Maybe not so much in the States. You know how the States are. But also,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
that's not a big trick. Maybe in the Midwest. In the Midwest, we try to be humble. Everywhere else, not so much.
So I've heard.
And it has also exposed me. I was already exposed to the East at a young age. So even if I don't use Indian cultures, my mind is already opened up to Eastern sounds. Like, for example, on the Goddard EP, I try to find a way to add an exotic element to it because my mind is already open-minded enough to go beyond just Western music. And, I specialize in Western classical, as you know, like the whole classical thing. I'm very good at that. But on a track like Lately and Flip That, I was inspired by flamenco guitar, by Spanish music, because I'm always looking for different cultures to inspire me. And maybe if I wasn't exposed to Indian music or the East, I maybe I would have been open-minded enough to try it out.
Yeah, okay. It's much broader than I thought then with the you know, sort of where you draw inspiration from. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's really cool actually. So, as far as again going back to sort of your process creatively, how would you say that the people around you in your life, like you know, growing up and now have sort of, you know, inspired you, I guess? Would you say they've played a big part in getting you to where you are?
Uh, yeah, I think my parents are definitely big believers in what I do. Like, believe it or not, my mother always told me, I don't understand why you just want to be a producer. You have the rap voice. You need to be a rapper. So you can even
Mm.
she was the one who gave me even more confidence to go down that route. Most, especially most Indian parents won't tell their son to be a rapper, but mine did. So yeah, definitely a big role. But well, a lot of them, um, they don't necessarily support because I'm doing something different. They just don't understand, and I don't ask for their support because how can I expect them to understand something they don't know about? So it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I suppose if it's one of those things where it's not very common, then yeah, it must be kind of difficult to get behind. But I think it's really nice that sort of your mum was that supportive of it to the point where you wanted to do one thing and she was like, no, take it that next step, do more. It's like that's really, really quite sweet to hear actually. So I suppose sticking on that topic then, you know, have you faced any sort of like criticism or bullying almost of your work online? Or has it been very positive? Have you had any
Oh,
instances where
it
it's
ha-
been particularly bad?
it's been. I gotta be honest with you. I haven't really faced any upside of it. I felt the negative impact more. But all I know is,
Oh,
Yeah, no, I mean, people first, the first thing they do, even if they have good intentions, they want to put me in a box. Like, oh, well, you're from India. Well, no, I'm not from India, actually. If you listen to how I speak, you would know that. But that's,
Yeah,
people want to, they want to put you in a box because it's easy to categorize something rather than understand something for what it is. They're just being lazy, quite honestly. So, but I don't take them seriously because I know they don't know what they're talking about. Like they want to school me on what it means to be Indian. Like, yeah, don't you know that Bollywood is the biggest market? Like, first of all, don't you understand that India has 500 languages? And who are you to school me on my culture? Like,
yeah,
you have some problems here. So they really expect me to come in on the carpet, and then they can't comprehend. If I do R&B, they're like, "Well, you used to be flying on the carpet. I don't understand why you're doing R&B," or "Oh, I don't understand why you're doing cinematic music. I want you to be doing the Bollywood dance number." And that's on the benign side. At the absolute worst, they'll tell me you don't know what you're doing because you're not from the culture. Like,
yeah. It's
yeah,
just it's sounding like straight up racism to me, to be honest. It's like it's almost like you said, putting you in a box or putting you in a category. It's like uh, surely it doesn't matter where a person's culture is from. They can just if they've got talent, they've got talent. I've never understood the mindsets of these people, to be honest. It's so bizarre.
yeah, and I see the comments, and but this is what I'm here for. I'm here to break the barriers, and they'll tell me, well, don't you know that rap music is not for Indian people? Don't you know that? That's what people they leave those comments, or they tell me, he used to be working 7-Eleven. But ignorance doesn't stop me. They've just been trained to be a certain way. I know what I can do musically, so I don't even take it seriously.
Yeah, no, that sounds really gross. Like that's the only word I can really use to describe it. It's like that's, as I say, it's such a like almost otherworldly kind of mindset. I cannot at all understand why people think like that, to be honest. Because again, it's like it's so evident in your work that you do have the talent for it. That yeah, I really can't. I think it takes a really strong mindset as well to sort of see those comments for what they are as well. Because again, if you receive that many of them, I wouldn't be surprised if it were to end up, discouraging you. But the fact that it hasn't, so that's incredibly powerful, I think.
No, because I just know for a fact that if people didn't know how I looked like, or if they didn't know my name, they would not be saying these things. And I know that for a fact because I've tested them out blind. Because I'm like a scientist, so I like to have data to back it up. So when you send these records out, no one ever makes those statements. It's like,
Yeah,
he's a good rapper. Man, who is this guy? He sounds like a star. But then as soon as you tell him, oh, he's of Indian descent, you know what? He doesn't know how to rap. He sucks. It doesn't add up.
yeah, that's fascinating. Obviously not in a good way, but nonetheless, it's fascinating. Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, I suppose then, has that sort of message and that sort of, backlash found its way into your work then? Like, if it's given you any sort of, I mean, if you feel comfortable talking about it, if it has sort of given you any, like kind of sadness or like mental health problems as a result, has that then manifested itself into your work? Have you been able to funnel that into something more positive, I guess?
Yeah, you could say that. I had a record called Outside, right? The whole point of the song is I'm on the outside looking in. I'm not here to subscribe to your so-called norms and your rules for me. I'm gonna step to the outside of that. So it has inspired me in that way, but I don't necessarily feel down about it. I just recognize human nature. Human nature is human nature. You can't do much about it. You just had to recognize it for what it is and you move on. But I think in my future work, I want to I want to translate my understanding of how humans work into song format, but also make it entertaining. Because I don't want to give you a lecture. It still has to be entertaining. I am trying to tie that all back into the music as well. I think there's some valuable lessons we could all learn from because, you know, a lot of people are programmed. and you really got to feel bad for them. Like I just feel bad that they're programmed. I don't feel they don't really make me upset. Like I pity their ignorance.
Mhm. Nah, I feel that. I mean, I've got my auntie's family are from America, and let me tell you, sometimes it is very hard to sort of recognize that you know a lot of these people have sort of come from backgrounds that don't let them learn, I suppose. And again, it's like you said, it is sort of like watching from the outside in and thinking they don't realize at all, do they? It's like they don't have the like cognitive ability to understand these things. It is really so bizarre, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I'll never understand it. Anyway, moving on from such a kind of sad
Heavy
topic, I
topic.
guess.
It's a heavy topic. It's I wouldn't say sad, heavy. It's very heavy.
Yeah, heavy. There we go. Because at the end of the day, you've managed to funnel it into something positive, which I think is one of the best outlets for something like this. So yeah, if we move on to social media then, because this is something I'm always curious about. Um, how have you utilized social media for sort of your career and things? Because I think everyone sort of has a very different relationship with social media. Some like using it a lot, some don't like using it at all. Some use it to, promote their work. Others actually find that not using it at all is better for their work. I mean, where do you lie on that sort of scale, would you say?
What I'm learning is, and this is something I didn't know before or understand before. Uh, social media is a tool, and I didn't understand at first. When I was a kid, I never used social media, so it's only when I got into music when I started using it, and I was very hesitant to even utilize it because I saw it as okay, but this is what this is this for influencers, and then I realized no, this is a marketing tool, and your job as a especially indie artist is you have to be a marketer. So now to me, social media is a tool to market yourself. So I'm actually trying to recalibrate myself to really use it as a way to demonstrate my identity, my brand. What is my brand? Where's the ad? Social media's the ad. That's what I've learned, and I'm still trying to crack the code and find out how to
Yeah,
make my brand translate in that format.
I think everyone's sort of trying to find their place on social media because that is the issue. If you don't build enough of a personality and a presence, you just get drowned out by people doing the same thing. Which I suppose, considering what we've spoken about, is where you're fortunate in that you do something very original, very unique. So I mean, surely, centering a lot of what you do around your music must help sort of find that, sort of that angle, I guess.
Uh, yeah, I agree, but I don't, I haven't fully dived into my unique identity quite yet. Like right now,
Mhm.
we've been testing out different approaches, and I feel very comfortable saying this. We're testing out different personas, so to speak. Like, why not try the boy next door? Maybe that's what's going to connect with people, or so this and that. But have we really got into who I am 100%? Not quite yet. I feel like I want my work to also reflect that because sometimes you have to make the Hallmark movie. Like if you're in film, you know that like every director makes a Hallmark movie, and I've done Hallmark social media, I've done Hallmark records, but and that is a great ad. It's a great tool, but sometimes to get that fan base, you have to aim for a smaller community, and you may not get the big numbers, but they will be they'll believe, and that's important. And I haven't gotten to that point yet because I
Mm.
feel like I need to be
Yeah,
putting songs that reflect that. So I've dabbled, but it's I had to go deeper, and that's just giving I'm giving myself a very transparent review. Like I'm not gonna
yeah.
I don't want to sugarcoat things.
No, absolutely. I think you deserve that though. I think everyone sort of has that, adjustment period, and it's like, yeah, you'll score it eventually. We all do. So, again, I suppose dialing it back to, music and that sort of core subject. How important would you say it was to find other people doing what you do, or at least that are in the industry that you're in? How have those connections, if you have any, helped you do what you do?
I have a song that is unreleased, and guess what? It's called Puppet Master. I think so. That tells you how many. I know nearly everyone in the industry. Believe it or not, I just haven't. There's a time and place for everyone, and I haven't really utilized all of them quite yet. But I do know all the players. The number one thing I learned was number most of the time as an artist or a creative, you already have what you need. You don't need all these people to tell you what to do because they will tell you themselves. Well, I don't really know if it's going to work. I'm guessing myself. I'm like, well, I don't need your expert opinion because you're not an expert. You just told me, you're guessing. We're all guessing.
Yeah,
That was the main thing, and that was very empowering. You really can take your destiny into your own hands. To me, that was the number one thing I learned about. And I worked with the biggest names behind the scenes, and they're really no different than you and I.
it's all the same. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I've never been told that perspective before. That's really, really quite fascinating, actually. Yeah.
Because do you know why?
Okay.
There's a reason for it.
Oh,
Because
really? Go on.
they want to gatekeep. There's gatekeepers all around in this industry. They're trying to make it seem like some arcane secret art, while when it's really simple. There is no arcane sorcery going on. I mean, look, I'm not saying I didn't learn some techniques from some great people like Pooh Bear. I learned how to write better songs after working with him. He wrote Twilight, by the way, but I have a lot of records with Pooh Bear that haven't come out. But even Pooh
Wow.
Bear is not always going to get a hit
Hmm.
because he's a man. We are none of us are always going to get a hit. He's not the magic hit maker. He knows a few techniques and he's very good at what he does, but he's not always going to get a hit. Likewise for me, I'm not always going to make a hit, but I know a few techniques that may help me to get a hit, but I'm not, there is no magic wand. There is no one person who's just going to come out of nowhere and make you a star. It just doesn't work that way.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, no one has ever said anything like that to me, but I can totally see how that would be the case, actually. Yeah, we've always spoken with people about how competitive the music industry is and stuff. And if it really is a case of no one truly knows what they're doing, then that just makes it add up that much more. No, absolutely. So going a bit more personal then, what do you get up to in your free time outside of music? You got any hobbies you particularly enjoy?
So believe it or not, I consider music one of my hobbies. And I say that because I would say 80% of my time is mostly dealing with all the various characters. And believe me, there is a lot of characters in any industry, but especially in the entertainment industry and the marketing aspect. But let's aside from music, I'm also big into film. Um, I would say that's one of my biggest passions in life, and I think I try to apply that to my music, the cinematic aspect. But above all, I like to learn. To me, my greatest talent is, am I the greatest musician on the planet? No, I'm not. But am I a good learner? Yes, I am. I like to learn, but I like to understand the world and what makes up the world and how, whether that be science, politics, history, I like to learn everything. So to me, my hobby is learning.
Wow. Yeah, so sort of just filling yourself with knowledge, I guess.
Yeah,
Interesting.
uh, you know,
Yeah.
and it's very simple. I may just have a question, and then I do a deep dive on why things are the way they are.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, just quickly harking back slightly to film, what would you say is your favorite film of all time?
It's hard for me to say favorite film. I just don't believe in saying I have one of all time, but one movie I really like right now is The Lighthouse by Robert Eggers.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot of good things. I've not seen it myself, but I've heard a lot.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
like movies that stick in your head, right? Like even if you don't love it the first time you watch, but it lives inside of your head. To me, that's what makes a movie a movie.
is The Lighthouse the one with Willem Dafoe?
Yeah, it's Willem Dafoe
Yeah.
and Richard Patterson.
Yeah, no, I've seen clips of it. It does look like like a bit of a mind scratcher, really. Interesting. Okay. So, what advice have you got then for students that would want to do what you do? Because I feel like you're going to have some interesting takes here. So, what would you say straight out of university or while they're in university, out the get go, what should they do?
Number one, start working on social media ASAP, day one. I didn't do that. And believe me, I'm feeling the consequences for not taking it seriously. I'm playing catch up now. So because that's the future. We're going to be living in the social media world. It's like I want I go to Equinox now. I'm trying to be fancy, and the manager, he told me, well, nowadays when we hire personal trainers, they need to have a social media platform. So that's going to be the future, even for music. So you got to understand that that's where the world is going, and if you want to compete, you have to do that. But aside from the social media, because we don't always want to talk about social media, we want to talk about art. Um, you have to. Yeah, it's very simple. Find out your identity. What do you have to offer to the people? Because you have to sell them something that they can't find anywhere else. Whether that be your sound, whether that be your narrative, your beliefs, you have to have something unique to offer. And then, of course, you had to work on your skills. You had to have the goods, and you can teach yourself using the power of Google Academy. So as long as you have those two things under control, three aspects under control, I think you have a good chance of making it. But it's a lot of
Okay.
handle. So it's a lot of handle. You have to do a lot of multitasking.
So sort of have a bit of personality and actually get stuff in order the minute you have the opportunity, I guess. Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. So in your career then, just to give people a bit of a forewarning, I guess. What would you say has been the biggest challenge for you? Have you faced a particular challenge that you think is bigger than the rest?
Oh yeah, 100%. Aside from the whole putting you in a box thing, it's definitely dealing with these gatekeepers who don't know what they're doing. Like,
Hmm.
like for example, I have a record coming out next week called Energy. And music video is going to come out too. I recorded that record 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I did a music video 2 years ago. It hasn't come out yet because of the politics, because the so-called experts keep derailing things. And guess what? What they claimed they would do for me now is not much better than what I was doing before. So you had to realize that these people who want to latch on to you are not doing it in your best interest. They want to, in fact, the worse you do, the more powerful they are. They don't want to see you win. So you had to move quick. You got to force your hand. Don't wait for advice. And that's what I did early on. I took advice from people who really didn't know what they're doing. And yeah, they may have had success in the past, but guess what? I'm not, I'm different. I have my own path. You have to apply new principles to a new path. So to me, that was, I just, I needed to believe in myself more. And in that way, I always believed in my talent, but believing in my path was something I wasn't doing enough. And standing my ground and not and having the confidence to say, I don't need you. I mean, you don't want to just cut people off, but you got to recognize when people aren't adding value, you need to get rid of them. You
It's
got to,
not worth it.
well, yeah, especially when you know deep down what your path is. I know what my path is. I know what my sound is. I shouldn't be I mean, look, you can enhance my sound. You can build upon it, but you can't tell me to go back to ground zero because you want to have control over me. That's what they do. I mean, they were telling me you need to sing like Justin Bieber because of your look. Like, I don't have a deep voice. Why do you want me singing like Justin Bieber? It doesn't make sense
Yeah.
because that's all they know. They're just doing what they know. They're not applying. They're not thinking.
Mm.
So you had to do what's best for you. And
Yeah.
to me, that's what I didn't do before, and now I'm trying to do it now.
Wow. Yeah. I think you've said a lot that a lot of people would be very afraid to say, I suppose. And so thank you for being so, honest, I guess. It's been really, really great to hear actually. We do usually summarize by asking what you're currently working on, but you have told me you're working quite a few records that are releasing over the next few weeks, months. You've just released the EP. So I mean, is there anything else you want to plug, or is that as much as
Wait,
you've got?
I have a lot to plug in. So as I said, as you said, got EP's out. You can go listen to it. If you want the vibes, if you want to just lay, chill out, go check out the God EP. You know, good for parties, good for working out, good for just vibing out. You can even wash your dishes to God. Like once you got it, you got it. And then I'm putting out a new record. It's in the R&B Playboy lane because it's called Energy. Coming out next week. And the way I describe it is about, you know, I think anyone can relate to this. It's about the push and pull chemistry between two people, all wrapped up in a kind of 90s glam rap R&B meets hip hop package. I think it is a very fun record, and I'm very excited to put it out. I know it works. I've tested it out. You can see the trend here. I like to test things out. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's is it like Got It, the EP, yes, but it has a different flavor to it. And then following Energy is, you know how I told you I was kind of gate kept and I wasn't able to release everything. Well,
Yeah.
whatever I was working out, it's coming out under another EP. I don't know, probably 1 month after Energy. It's more of that cinematic gothic sound. You know, what do you know? What you may know me for? The more cinematic stuff. It's called Twilight Tales. Um, and it's gonna have Twilight on it. It's gonna have Regretted on it. It's gonna have Outside, but bro, there's gonna be a few more records on it. I'm really excited to put this one out because I've had the vision of combining fantasy with hip hop, but making that dream come true has been it's been hard. Not only because of the gatekeepers, but because I don't necessarily have the answer. How do I make my dream come true? I'm trying to figure out how do I make this idea even come to being, and it was very gratifying to see myself take the first steps towards that path on Twilight Tales. And I'm excited to see what I've been, you know, the powers that be have been trying to stop me, but now I'm excited to put it out. And then
Amazing.
following that, oh, by the way, I forgot. For the Gotta EP, I got a feature from Babyface Ray on. For Flip That, he's going to do a remix for it. So that's going to come out soon too.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, now it's time for me to tap into my all my I told as I said, I know a lot of people. So I think it's very feasible for the world to expect songs with Babyface Ray, Iceberg, Bezo, and GT. And they're all my Detroit guys. Maybe even Big Son. I don't know if Big Son. I can make it work. But
Yeah. You got those connections.
I do have those connections. But what I'm really excited about is I feel like whatever I'm putting out is kind of like the prologue, especially Twilight Tales to I'm working on a few albums, but one of them is this how I'm gonna describe it. It's like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars meets hip hop. I feel like
Whoa, that sounds cool.
my magnum opus moment that I've been building towards is about to happen. So I'm hoping to
Sweet.
have it ready by October.
That's ridiculously exciting. I've never heard anything like that, to be honest.
Yeah, so that's what I've been building towards. Like that's when I may even just do it's gonna be even more cinematic. My voice is gonna be even better. The storytelling is gonna be stronger. Because I got better at telling stories. Like, when I first started off, I was still getting a hang of it, but I feel like I've really started to master the storytelling aspect of songs while keeping it musical and like out catchy and like no matter what, I'm always going to try to go to radio. Even if I'm doing Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
it's still going to be a radio record.
Hmm.
And that's part of my job to make it appealing. No matter what you do, you can make it appealing. That's what the weekend said. He said, if you're a good songwriter, you can take any topic and you can make it a hit.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
aside from the whole Lord of the Rings meets hip hop, I'm also going to be introducing people to more of the real me musically. Like it's a little more grimy, it's a little more street. Even if I'm not rapping about street stuff, I'm rapping like I'm street, and I just sound like that, like naturally. Like I just that is how I rap by default. A lot of times I tone it down because I'm like, okay, I'm doing R&B. I can't be too hard, but we're gonna get those bangers. Like think Pop Smoke meets Future, like but with my lyrics. So that's also coming out.
Sweet.
We got a lot of product coming out. I feel like I've only just started. We've only seen 5% of what I can do.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of exciting stuff coming. Very excited for that. So yeah, that is pretty much all we've got for you. So thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been a very informative session, I'd say. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on.